Look, before we get into the video, we just took a client from $20,000 a month with their coaching offer to 6 figures a month. They were stuck at 20 grand a month for 2 years, okay? And finally broke through their plateau in the Kaizen Mastermind group. You can learn more about that group in the description. It is only for established online coaches, people who are already making money with their coaching business, want to reach $100,000 to $500,000 a month. I've been doing this for 5 years, got 30 or more clients doing at least 6 figures a month, and a handful of clients well over $500,000 a month. And I just launched a whole new business a couple months ago, and it's pacing its first 6-figure month. So if you want to grow your coaching business, links in the description. You can learn a bit more about what that looks like. Either way, check out the video. You're really going to like this one. Making money, business, making sales, it's really not hard. It's actually one of the easiest things you could do. But the problem is people build up all this mental lattice work that kind of prevents them from doing the basic things that work in business, and so, like, for example, I run a whole other coaching company. So I've got this business, which is like my coaches business, helping them get to $1 million to $10 million a year with their business. And I've got tons of case studies, 30 clients at 6 figures a month, and a couple clients at $500,000 a month. And then I have a whole other business that is currently pacing its first 6-figure month. We started it a couple months ago. And it's like, I'll be honest, it's so much of it is just inner game. So much of it is just how you perceive things and how you think about the world and how you perceive yourself and how you think about money. And I want to make a very practical video around that, because I think there's a lot of videos about mindset, but they end up being kind of like this weird, there's not a lot of like real substance to them, they end up being, I don't know, like I watch them and they're helpful, but I don't know about you, and maybe you would agree or disagree with me on this. I think the mindset sphere in general is very diluted. And when people talk about limiting beliefs, they don't actually know what a limiting belief actually is, and so I want to start by saying that a limiting belief isn't actually a limiting belief, but it's a protective belief. Okay, so you believe things that protect you from things that you're afraid of. And so all of your beliefs serve you, and your subconscious mind, all it knows is base biological needs and desires, and then like fears. You know what I mean? And so your lizard brain, all it wants to do is keep you safe and keep you fed and keep you, that's basically it, And so in order to succeed in business, you have to tie your subconscious brain's desire for security, for safety, for provision. You have to tie these things to the right things. When somebody's need for security and safety is tied to the wrong things, like junk food or bad relationships or bad habits and stuff like that, then they make it impossible for themselves to succeed, because it feels like they're fighting themselves like every day, and so when you're not fighting yourself every day and you're actually in a flow like state with yourself, then I'm telling you, truly, business is like the easiest thing on the planet. But it's hard, or it's made hard, because your own neurology is working against you. So what I want to do in this video is talk about some very practical things that I've done, that I've personally done. This isn't like things that I saw on another YouTube video, or like I watched another video and then like took ideas from it or anything. Like, this is actually stuff that I've actually done that has helped me align all my systems, my mental system, my emotional system, my physical systems, to be effective in business. Okay. And a lot of it has to do with fear, and a lot of it has to do with habits and rewiring thought patterns, and then it has a lot to do with like self-image and how I actually think about myself. Okay, so let me start with the self-image part of the equation, and start with the way that you think about yourself, because there's you can imagine almost a visual. There's one circle, and in it is the things that happen to you in life. Okay. And then there's an arrow that goes to another circle underneath it, almost like a looping cycle of the things that happen to you in your life, and then your view of yourself creating your response to the things that happen to you in life. which then that response feeds back into, what happens in your life. So it's like a loop, right? So what happens in your life creates a response, and that response is pulled from the way that you view yourself. And that response creates an aligned, what happens to you in your life, an aligned circumstance to the way that you view yourself. So it's literally like a loop. And people don't know how to break that loop. And so what I want to talk about is, there's a book here, and I'm just going to put you on some game. If you haven't read it already, Psycho-Cybernetics, you got to read this book. Great place to start when it comes to how to rewire the way that you view yourself. Because when I first started in business, I was an anxious, scared, I overthought everything. And I compared, and I felt horrible about myself. I was so envious, and so I just had so much mental luggage that I didn't even realize I was carrying with myself. And I wondered why business was so hard. I wondered why other people seemed to be able to succeed so well. And it was just I was carrying so much mental luggage. And by the way, I'm not necessarily a mindset coach, so this is video, it's nothing for sale here. I mean, I talk mindset with my clients when I help them grow their business, but to be honest, it's not the main thing that I talk about. And so that's where you got to start. You got to start with this book. This is what I would recommend, is dive into the science of how you view yourself, because how you view yourself is the response to the world that you naturally have, and your response to things is your actions, your decisions. That's what leads to the results you get in life, and the circumstances you have again. And if you're not ahead of that cycle, and you're living in a cycle that doesn't serve your goals, you start with how you view yourself, right? So a lot of people, they start with the work. They want to work their way into a better situation. But what's actually worked much better for me is not working my way into a better situation and hustling my way into a better situation, but it's actually looking at my past, my failures and my successes, and actually going back to the drawing board in my head, and through a process, really rewiring how I see myself. And because I was not always, this multi-7-figure business owner, far from it. I mean, I was going back to when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, that era, man, dude, I had so much wrong with me. It was, I had so many issues that I had to work against. I was such a lonely, isolated kid that had all these excuses for not doing things, and I always took the shortcut in life. You know what I mean? I was homeschooled, for those who don't know. And being homeschooled, you kind of, at least the way that we were homeschooled, everybody has a different experience with it. But I had stuff that I had to do with my work, my homework and stuff. And I would always take the shortcut. I was just a shortcut taker. I never finished things all the way. I kind of I'm not happy with who I was at the time. I love myself and I respect who I was at the time, given my circumstances and everything. But I had to break a lot of those habits, and I kind of didn't like myself. I kind of knew that I was cheating in life almost, and I kind of didn't like myself for it. And so I just didn't like myself. And so that created a lot of self-sabotage in business, and that created a lot of I could succeed, but it's I don't know if I want to. And the truth is, it's just because I don't have a good view of myself. So I would start there. That's the first major tip for how to actually get around a lot of the things that hold people back. A lot of people, they don't realize that it's not the business model that they're in, but it's actually how they view themselves in relationship to the business model. And a lot of people don't have a healthy view of themselves. Okay. And so I'd start there. And so the next thing, and let's talk a bit less, spiritual, psychological. Let's talk a bit more practical. When I talk, again, at the beginning of this video, I said limiting beliefs are actually just self-protective beliefs. So they're not limiting, they're protective. So I want to talk about a bit of how to actually get your brain to stop protecting you from things that are good for you, okay? Which is what self-sabotage is. And that's what making business harder than it needs to be is your body and your brain are literally working against you to keep you from the success that you want, okay? And so what this looked like for me, let me speak for myself. What this looked like for me was the power of having a vision board And not just any vision board. People tend to make vision boards kind of willy-nilly. Like my wife, for example, and I'm not trying to dog her friends. That's not at all I'm trying to do. I love her friends. I love our social group. And if you're watching this, I love all of you. She invited her friends over, and her friends were done with their vision boards in like 10 or 15 minutes. And my wife, she was like pondering it like all night. She was like, man, I'm having a hard time deciding what I want to put on this thing. And I think it's because I kind of rubbed off on her a little bit. And that's what she was telling me, is I rubbed off on her, because when you put together a visual of where you want to be, you're literally feeding your subconscious brain with a thing. Okay, when you lack that vision, you don't have something you're moving towards, your brain, all it wants to do is just stay idle. You know, it doesn't have a clear vision of the future. It's operating mostly in fear, and if it doesn't have something that's working towards, it's just going to kind of default to like avoiding the negative. You know what I mean? So if you don't have something you're working towards that you believe you can have, and I'll get into how to develop that belief in a sec, then it's just going to default to not doing anything, you know, and it's just going to default to protecting you from things. Like, this is how people end up just like barely above water surviving, like in life, is because they don't have clarity of what they want, or they don't believe they can have these things, because they're living by, you know, the rules that our culture is set up. Our society loves telling people that they can't unless they do this thing, you know, whatever it is, a degree or whatever. It's some outside thing that isn't your fault as to why you can't do it. That's the most common form of belief in our culture. So, you know, she built a vision board, and she took a lot of time to build it, and I do the same thing. So I have a vision board, and I'll do this. I'll grab a screenshot of my old vision board that I went on to actually achieve. So I actually achieved this vision board, okay? And so I had to build a new one. And so I want you to think about, when you're making a vision board, what you're doing is you're saying, you're going to drill home new wiring into your brain. So you're going to look at it every day. And you're not just going to look at it. What you got to do is make a practice of feeling in your body as if these things were real. So a vision board isn't like an aesthetic board. A lot of people, like, they make like aesthetic boards. It's like, it's just kind of a pretty thing. Vision board to me is like not necessarily pretty. It has some subliminal messaging behind it, but it's more practical. Like, you know, right now on my vision board, I have, you know, a $500,000 a month, like Stripe account. Cause it's like, I want to get to that point in my business consistently. And so I have that. And then I also have like a P&L that like shows where the money would go. So it's very practical. And then I have a couple of other things on my current vision board. And so I look at it, and the way that this eliminates your fear, it's very interesting. Your mind, as a default, will be operating in protecting and fear and shrinking your life down to making sure you don't lose the things that you have, unless you establish a clear vision. What's cool about having a clear vision is you start to notice through what's called confirmation bias, meaning you're looking for evidence of something that you believe might be true or is true. You're looking for evidence of it around you. You start to notice pathways to reach that vision board state, you know, and in ways that you never noticed before. Once you put it on a vision board, and just for a couple weeks, you look at it, and you just kind of sit quietly with yourself, like, what would it feel like if I was already there? Not this would be nice to have, but like literally, like, play pretend. I know it sounds ridiculous, but play pretend, and pretend like it's real, okay? And literally what's going to happen is your brain, your neurology, what's called your reticular activating system, your RAS, which is in charge of filtering the information that comes in on a daily basis, will literally begin to notice around you, hey, this is a little way that you could make that happen a little more. This is a little way that you can make that happen a little more. So you have a vision board, and because you're no longer living in fear, your vision is so exciting and inspiring, and you begin to believe it, and you begin to make a little bit of progress, which drills home the belief, and a little bit more progress, it drills home the belief a little bit more, and all of a sudden, you look back, and it's a couple years later, and you've done the thing on the vision board. And so, that's how you get rid of fear. Or that's how I got rid of fear, is I looked at it every day. And, you know, I actually learned this from a mentor of mine, Sam Ovens, who had some of the best, like, self-image mindset training ever. It really helped me see, like, what you decide to do, you can do. But you have to decide to do it, and you have to believe you can. And the belief component can be manufactured. You know, your brain doesn't know the difference between something that happens to you in life, like, that actually happens, and something that you visualize in your head, right? And that you make real in your nervous system. And so once you believe it can happen, once you've felt it and you start to believe it and you start to really it starts to kind of materialize in your world, in your life, because you start to notice directions that you could go. And there's nothing necessarily overly spiritual about this, other than I believe that the gift of free will that God gave us, that we have total dominion over this planet and total free will. And so in that way, I believe we can literally wire ourselves to see things the way we used to not see them, and in that way be able to create things that we weren't able to create at one point. And so a lot of people who have my Christian faith would say that that's getting into like humanism, but it's not. You're just using the tool that God gave you. Like, to God be the glory, but you have this tool, right? And so that's how I got rid of a lot of the fear that held me back, was I began to believe that I could. So for the longest time, I didn't even believe that I could. It wasn't even that I couldn't. It's just that I believed that I couldn't. You know what I mean? And because I believed that I couldn't, I'd see all this evidence everywhere that I couldn't, and then I wouldn't, right? Like, obviously I can't, because I'm not there. Like, I don't have the money in the bank. I don't have the clients. I don't have the thing. Like, I can't. I've never done it before, you know? So it just totally shuts off the possibility that I can't. But I put it on the vision board, and I even wrote some affirmations and some things that I want to make true about myself over time. And I'd say the things, and I'd look at the board, and over time, my brain just slowly began to believe that. It just slowly began to see, like, oh wait, I actually probably can't. Like, I had this little win today, and that little win is like 1% of the big vision. Like, holy cow, like, that's progress. I actually maybe I can do this. And then slowly, it just became reality. And so your fear shifts from, what if I lose everything? What if I fail? What if I mess up? To, it actually shifts to, what if I don't make this happen? Right? Which is like a way more powerful fear. Like, I'm afraid of not making this vision happen because this vision excites me so much. Like, it's like 90% excitement and just joy and gratitude, and it becomes like maybe 80-90%, and it's like 10 or 20% fear. Whereas most people, they live in like 50 to 70% fear, and there's maybe a little bit of peace and like relaxation. So they move from cycles of fear to relaxation, and they're just like trying to avoid the things that make them fearful all the time. Okay, so that's how you view yourself, which is one of the core things that gets in the way. The next thing is fear that gets in the way. Okay. I'm going to talk about the last thing here, which is the belief of the amount of value that you can add to the lives of others, okay? Because you're going to get paid to the degree of the value that you add to the lives of others. Now, especially if you're a coach or a consultant, or you sell information products or things like this, this is a very important thing. If you sell like a physical product, like if you manufacture cars, you don't necessarily need to have like work on this, because it's like it's obvious, like the car is the value, right? But a lot of people in this space, it's a lot more it's like selling your ideas and your thoughts, and so it's like hard to really believe that people would pay $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for that material, for that stuff, right? So what I want you to understand is, and this is something that really, really helped me, charge, $30,000 rates for, my programs, right? And what I learned was, it's like, what people do is they tend to value themselves in terms of how they size up to their immediate surroundings. So a lot of you live with family, or you live with friends, or in close proximity to friends or family, and it's like, would those people pay you 20 grand? Probably not. Like, what could you do? Like, they know you, you know them. There's not a lot of like discrepancy between your state and their state, right? Or your knowledge and their knowledge. But what's interesting about the internet is it's totally flipped that on its head. So you don't necessarily have to be anybody special, and you can still charge those rates. And here's why. Because if you make content or run advertising that gets people who have pains or desires that you can solve, to the degree that there's pain or to the degree that there's desire, you can charge for the alleviation of that pain or the achievement of that desire. Okay? It's truly that simple. And even if you're just one step ahead of somebody, you don't have to be on step 10 of 10. Somebody can be on step 2 and you're on step 3, but that third step is the one that they're stuck on, okay? And it's the one that would give them the breakthrough so that they could eventually reach 10 in whatever that domain might be. And because they've been stuck at step 2 for 6 years and they cannot break it, or because they've been stuck at step 2 for long enough that it's painful for them, or because they understand the value of 3 to 10, you can charge them off of that difference. It doesn't have to be a huge You don't have to be the expert. You don't have to be world renowned. You know, just this month, I've had a handful of people sign up for my Kaizen Mastermind group, right? Which I sell for, kind of depending on where somebody's at, to be honest. But usually it's no less than, 10 grand to get inside. I mean, it depends on the level of support, where they're at, kind of stuff like that. I've got clients that, have their lifetime value for that group is well over $50,000, right? And so, and that's just because I'm just a couple of steps ahead of certain people in this given specific arena. And I'm not even necessarily like the best. There's people in this industry who are better than I am. And yet I still make a ton of money because I'm a couple steps ahead of the people that I'm talking to, like particularly right now in this video, right? So I just want to make that clear. It's like, that's kind of how those are the three major things that I find that hold, people back. These are the limiting beliefs that keep people from succeeding at a massive level, right? Belief one, how do I see myself, right? And that people don't even necessarily realize that that's the thing that's holding them back. But once they start to study that stuff, especially through a book like Psycho-Cybernetics, one of the best books on the topic, they realize like, oh man, like it really is just how I see myself that's been like chaining me to this situation. And then the next thing is fear, and how to get yourself out of a state of fear and into a place of abundance and excitement for the future and gratitude and moving forward, And then the final thing was the belief of the amount of value that you can add, And so if you can conquer these things, I am telling you, you can make genuinely as much money as you want. It's like truly you can make as much money as you want. And not just money. These apply in other domains as well. If you're trying to achieve anything, you have to conquer your relationship to yourself and it, right? Like if you're trying to learn skateboarding, but you just believe that you're a bad skateboarder, it's like you're not gonna be a good skateboarder. You have this identity that you're a bad skateboarder, and you're gonna live that out by not even trying, by not truly testing yourself against a skateboard, for example. You know what I mean? So these things they're universal, but that's why they work in business, is because it's the principles, the universal concepts that cut across time in different contexts, whether it's business or personal or hobbies or whatever you're into, that then fed into business, make business work. A lot of people, they study business to succeed in business, but what you have to learn how to do is be multidimensional. That's how you create a lot more success, is you're not just studying how to sell things more and sales and stuff, which is good. You need to know sales, but it's like you gotta have a more holistic view on it, and then apply that holistic view to it, and that's how you really create a lot of success, and how I've come into quite a bit of success myself. So, look guys, if you've watched this whole video, okay, and you're doing 5, 10, 20, 30 grand, maybe 50 grand, even 100 grand a month in your coaching, consulting business, you sell a $3,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 package of some sort, and you are dead set and serious about 6 figures a month or $500,000 a month with that business, I would say, look, you've watched this whole video, book a call. Go to the description and speak with me. I don't have a team taking these calls. It'll be myself. Okay, and the worst case scenario is I'm just going to give you some good input and we send you on your way. But if it's a good fit, and I believe based on your situation, you feel the same, that it makes sense to join our mastermind. The same mastermind that, just right now I have a client flying out. He just had his first 6-figure month, 2 months into the mastermind. He was stuck at 20 grand a month for 2 years. And 2 months in, he's doing 6 figures a month now. So he's flying out and we're going to have dinner here at my home. Like, look, if you just want to be a part of a group, worst case scenario, you get that osmosis effect of being around other people who are at that level. We have these bi-weekly group calls. They're epic. You can Slack me 24/7 anytime and be in this really active and lively Slack group of others who are succeeding at a high level. This is only for people with established offers who are already doing well but want to do a whole lot better. If that sounds like you absolutely must. Visit the link in the description. It's treycockrum.com/Kaizen. It's called the Kaizen Mastermind because that's a Japanese philosophy of doing 1% better every day in any given field. And that's how you create success and compounded success. So if that sounds like you at all, you really should book a call. And again, I'm only looking for people who are really serious, and also trust me and like my content and like my way of doing things. Like if you're just curious and you just want to ask me a bunch of questions and not make a decision, like please don't book a call. Like I have a family and I have to make sure my time is prioritized well. But if you fall into that former group, yeah, absolutely you must take that leap, because at this point it's ridiculous the amount of success that is coming out of that group, and I just want to get the right people into it and grow it out. So if you've enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and take that next step and speak with myself, and I'll see you in the next video.